This is Rich Franklin, and you're listening to Stand and Bang.
Hey, this is Jim Miller, and you're listening to Stand and Bang.
Hey, this is Dan Miller, and you're listening to Stand and Bang.
Hey guys, this is Hurricane Heather Joe Clark, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey, this is Max Karate Hottie Waterson, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hi, I'm Andrea KGB Lee, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey everybody, Bob Quinton here. You are listening to Stand and Bang. Woo!
Hey fight fans, welcome back to another edition of Stand and Bang. I'm your host Aaron Robbins, and with me as always is Fred Kirby from Gem City Fighting. Fred, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing very good. We have our first chance to have a return guest to Stand and Bang. We want to welcome the Karate Hottie Michelle Waterson back to the show. Michelle.
How's it going, guys?
We're doing really good. How was your weekend?
I was really good. Pretty busy. So just trying to use this Sunday to relax a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to need it. Now, I understand from your wonderful husband, Joshua Gomez. I want to say thank you so much to Joshua. He's always been so kind to us here. You guys went and saw the Avengers, huh?
We did. The movie there was pretty packed. We didn't think it was going to be as packed as it was, but it was. Our little one is a fan of Hulk Smash.
Huh. Well, I'm also a fan of the Hulk, so that makes plenty of sense. Okay, real quick to get started, there was another big event that went on this weekend. Michelle, did you catch any of the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight?
We did. My husband actually had a leukemia dinner to go to that we're helping support, but we made sure to rush home and watch the fight.
All right, and so we will get everybody's opinion, but why don't we start with Michelle? What did you think of the fight?
It was quite a letdown for me. I have to say, with all the hype and everything behind it, I feel like it was very anticlimactic.
You know, I think the entire world agrees with you. I didn't watch all of the fight. I was actually at the movies. I was watching Age of Ultron, and I'm kind of glad that I spent the $30 to go watch the movie rather than the $100 to watch the fight. This is a fight that we have been clamoring for 5 years. We had Stitch Duran, the cut man, on, and he predicted that it would be a letdown. And sure enough, social media was blowing up today that everybody was kind of let down. I think the fight actually shouldn't have been a letdown because what it was a classic Mayweather performance. That's what he's good at. That's why he's 48-0. Fred, now I know that you did watch the fight. What was your opinion of last night's event?
I think you guys summed it up pretty well. It sucked, right? Like, I mean, let's keep it honest. After all the hype, I think that without all the hype, it would have been an okay fight. But after all the hype and all the just absurd nonsense that went into it, from the pay-per-view prices to there only being 500 of tickets available to the public, it was just a crazy event. And then you watch the fight and you're kind of like, huh. So that was what we all waited all this time for. It was very, very anticlimactic. And, you know, and like you said, though, Aaron, people shouldn't be that surprised, man. This is what Floyd does. Floyd hasn't finished a fight in a month of Sundays. So it should be no surprise that he came out and did what he did. But it does kind of suck. Everybody got so hyped up for this fight. I mean, I haven't really seen this much hype around a fight. Everybody was talking about this fight. The place where I went to watch the fight, most of those people there weren't fight fans, but everybody was there to watch this big event, and it really was not a big event.
I think that's what's the most disappointing about the whole thing is that it brought the people that aren't boxing or fighting fans into the world, and for that to be the show for people that don't understand fighting is a letdown. And I think what is more disappointing to me is the amount of money that these two men made. It's like they don't care. You know, they're going home with how much did the fight produce? $200 million.
$300 million. No
yeah,
biggie.
They're going to go home with a combined of $300 million.
Yeah, and I was talking to my husband, you know, after the fight was over, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." Like I was telling him jokingly, like, I don't think either one of those men lost one brain cell in that fight. It was just it was, except I feel like sometimes I come home on a Tuesday practice with more injuries than those men did. And I feel like as a fan, I watched fights to be compelled and to be inspired, and it was not inspiring at all.
No, absolutely. And speaking of brain cells, thankfully nobody lost any, because I don't think Mayweather has any to spare. Just saying. I just got to put that out there. That's kind of a rude thing to say, but I mean, everybody questions if he can read or not. So, he protected his brain cells, and that's good. But, all right, so we are all in agreement that the $300 million earned by those combatants was a little bit astronomically ridiculous. I just want to put it out there that for 1/10 of that, I'm willing to fight the entire heavyweight division of the UFC all at once. If anybody.
Oh no, you ain't, Aaron. You better take that back. No, you're not.
No, I would let them all beat me. Kidding me? Yeah, of course.
Listen, though, I think the one positive that the UFC and MMA fans should take away from this fight is Floyd's ability to promote a fight. The dude is not an exciting fighter, and he made the world tune in. There's something to be said for that. Cats like Mighty Mouse that are technically brilliant but can't seem to get fans to care, they should take a note out of his book, man. Whatever he's doing, it works, like it or hate it.
Okay, well, you know what? On that note, let's switch over to UFC talk, because, Michelle, you being a returning guest, a lot of good and bad has happened since the last time that we talked. Unfortunately, over in Invicta, you lost a title fight, but we do have some very exciting news. You have been newly signed to the UFC Strawweight division, and you already have a fight signed with Angela Magana on July 12th. So why don't you go ahead and tell the fans about your last fight in Invicta, because that was very emotional. What you and Erica went through at the end of the fight, there was almost like an emotional release between you two women. Can you kind of tune the fans into what was going through your mind right then?
Well, I feel like, when you're fighting for the belt, there's a lot of emotion going into it. I feel like I had a responsibility to uphold as Invicta's champion, and it was heartbreaking. I felt like I let a lot of people down, including myself and my family. But you can't have anything but respect for your opponent who comes in and fights the way she did. She came to work that day, and you can't have nothing but respect for somebody that does so. And so I think that's all of those things combined is kind of the emotions that I was going through. I was happy for her because she came to fight, but I was heartbroken because I lost my belt that I had worked so hard for, and it kind of just slipped through my fingers. And so those were just the emotions that I felt. And I'm not the type of person to hold any grudges. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And the game was good that night. And so at the end of the day, I had to chalk it up to that. And the loss is something that I carried on my shoulders, because it was, at the end of the day, it was my fault for allowing that to happen. And so just taking that as an experience and a lesson learned and moving forward.
Okay, now, we do know a little bit about you, about, not holding anything in. You are a very emotional person. You're also a very friendly person. So I have to imagine that this was kind of a devastating blow. But in the interim, you healed up from that loss. And then now we see that you are signed to the largest fighting organization in the world, or the largest MMA organization in the world. Did this come as a surprise, first off? And can you kind of talk us through how the news came to be about? How did you find out that you were signing with the UFC?
After my loss to Erica, I did a lot of soul searching and trying to just figure out what I wanted from my career. And talking to teammates of mine and such, I just kind of came to the conclusion that everything happens for a reason. And to not allow that one situation to kind of hold me back. And if I was going to get back to the top of the mountain, there were more ways than one to do so. And so I was going to either spend a year and a half trying to get that rematch, or I was going to try to climb to the top of the mountain a different way. And so I chose to see how it's there and what the team is in the UFC, and see if they would even take me. And happily they did, and I'm quite excited for my new journey.
Okay, so if I'm to understand correctly, you pursued the contract with the UFC. It was actually your action to approach them.
Yes. I'm not sure if they even knew I was interested because I did fight at 105 with Invicta, and they don't have an atomweight division in the UFC. And so it's a decision of mine that I had to make to move up in a weight class and see if they would have me.
Okay, now speaking of weight classes, that brings me over to my esteemed colleague, Fred Kirby. Go ahead, Kirby. Ask your questions.
Yeah, no, I was just going to hit the Karate Hottie with that. We knew that you was going to be moving up a weight division to come to the UFC. I was just curious how that is going to affect you. Did you cut a lot to get to 105? Will this be more of a natural weight for you, or are you going to be a bit undersized for these girls?
It's probably a mixture of both. You know, I feel like I'm getting older and I'm holding more muscle now than I used to before. I did used to fight at 115 when I started my fight career. I'm now heavier. I'm heavier now than I was when I fought at 115 at the beginning of my career. So I think I'll be a smaller 115, but I also am comfortable at fighting at 115. I feel like it's going to be an easier weight cut. I'll have more energy because I'm not depleting myself so much. And I feel because I might be one of the smaller 115ers that I'll be able to use my speed, and I feel like my speed will neutralize the size situation.
All right, real quick.
Yeah, no.
Real quick,
ahead,
Kirby, before you go on. If you are fighting at you are fighting at 115. What is your natural walk around? What kind of cut will you have to do at this point?
In the past, I was walking around at 125, cutting to 105, and now I'm walking around at 130. So it should be a good weight cut.
Well, yeah, actually, if you're walking around at 120 or 125, cutting to 105, for a smaller person, that's a significant percentage of your body weight. Were you feeling depleted? Yeah. Were you feeling depleted from that cut?
You know, the last weight cut I did. I felt it was a pretty hard cut. But it was also because, you know, I took the fight at I think it was 5 weeks or something, and I just, there was just a lot of things going into it, like I said, and you just have to, if you need to cut that much weight, you have to do it healthy, and you have to do it smart, and I don't think I did it the right way my last time.
Yeah, we talk about weight cutting on this show all the time too. I think that for some people, moving up a weight division is a great idea. Mm-hmm. Anthony Johnson being a prime example of that. Some people move up a weight division and they keep their power and they just have a lot more gas and they're a little faster and everything. So that could end up being a great move for you in the long run either way.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a go at it, and I do think it'll be a great move for me. I have a good group of girls in the gym that are Emily Keegan's already fighting at 115, so she's one of my main sparring partners, and Holly Holm, she's fighting at 135, and there's a handful of girls that are around that 115 size, and I feel like I did very well. Excited.
Okay, you mentioned Holly Holm there. So we know you as champion in Invicta for a while, so surely you got used to the bright lights and headlining cards. But as we all know, the UFC is a completely different level. We had Angela Hill on the show a couple weeks ago, and she said that for her first fight in the UFC that she had the octagon jitters big time. How do you think you're going to react to actually, coming out to the UFC the first time? Do you think you're going to have the jitters, or do you think you'll be able to handle it relatively well with your experience?
I don't think you cannot have the jitters. I mean, it's a huge opportunity to be able to fight for the biggest MMA organization in the world. So yes, I do think I will have the jitters, but I think I have enough time to get my nerves in order. And if I do have the jitters, at least have them all jittering at the same pace.
True.
You know what? We never heard that. Maybe that's all it is, Kirby. Is it's okay to have the jitters, but you have to have all your jitters doing the same jittering at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds like it makes sense.
Okay, so you definitely agree that that the UFC jitters are a real thing. Now, speaking of your teammate, Holly Holm, do you think that we got to see what we were supposed to from her, or do you think that moving up to the big show like she did we not really see what your teammate is capable at this point?
Yeah, you guys haven't seen the best of Holly Holm, and she's an amazing person and an amazing fighter, and so there were definitely jitters. And you know, it's crazy because it's her UFC debut. There's so much hype behind her being, top contender fighting Ronda Rousey, and then for the main event to fall through and her become the co-main event for her UFC debut. I think that's huge, and for her to be able to still say that she went all 3 rounds and came out with a win is extremely. I think for her that's a good thing, for her to go all 3 rounds, under the big lights and come home with that win is very important.
Well, Kirby and I have a different opinion on hype trains. Kirby gets his ticket punched every chance he gets. He jumps on every hype train that there is. And Kirby, what is your opinion of me? What did you call me recently?
The number one hater, because that's what you do. You are quick to hate on me anytime I try to big up anybody. So yeah, that's what you do.
Yes. So we have the ultimate rider in Kirby, and I am Hator Emelianenko. So it's really difficult for us to go back and forth on that. I honestly believe that I saw a different woman than what I saw in her highlight reel. So we really want to see her come back. We would love to talk with Holly if we get a chance. Maybe we should throw out a contact to her and get her on the show. That would be great, because we would love to see her perform to her utmost ability. Now let's bring it back to Michelle. When we talk about me being the ultimate hater, you're the ultimate rider, we do come to a common ground on your first opponent in the UFC, Angela Magana. We're going to let you talk about her first. Are you familiar with her? What do you know about her at this point, Michelle?
I'm familiar with her from the show, and I also, she's actually from Farmington, which is a small town out here in New Mexico. And so at the beginning of my fight career, we crossed paths very briefly. She would come down and kind of cross-train with us throughout her camp. So, and that was a long time ago. So, both of us have changed as fighters and have progressed. And so I'm very excited to get in there with her and dig it out.
Now, are you prepared for the amount of nasty stuff that she is about to say about you on social media?
I don't know. I think some of the things that might come out of her mouth, will be ridiculous. But that's just her. Everybody, everybody marches to the beat of their own drum, and yeah, Angela's got a pretty interesting rhythm to her line.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so just quick question before me and Kirby say our piece on Her Majesty Magana. When you crossed paths with her back in the day, was she already marching to the beat of that drummer that she is now, or was she a little bit tamer, or are we really seeing the real person?
I think that's the real Magana, she has a very outgoing or crazy personality, and some people are, Coach Jackson always says you gotta have a couple screws loose to be a fighter.
Yeah.
But some of us just have more screws loose than others.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, if I had to walk across the bridge with that many rivets loose, I think I would find an alternate path. But anyways, that's where Kirby and I convene here, where it comes to the divergent personalities that we have. As far as Angela Magana goes, I believe that one of the great things about you coming to the UFC for the strawweight division is we need true talent. We need real fighters. We don't need personalities. We need people who can put up or shut up. And your career has shown that you can do that, where Tough 20 was very much a popularity contest. And I think some of these girls are going to be exposed. In her first performance, her first real performance in the UFC, she did not back up all that trash talking. And so, Kirby, I'm going to throw it over to you. What do you think of Her Majesty?
Well, since you judged a little bit of her in-cage talents, I will just touch a little bit on her out-of-cage talents. I was kind of hoping that Michelle would say that was a bit of an act, and that was not actually the real Magana, because the stuff that she put on Twitter, listen, everybody can promote themselves however they want, and if you're a good-looking female, then you should be able to promote that, and that should be part of your brand. I'm all for that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I hate to kind of be a hater, man, but like the whole Your Majesty thing, and then her kind of selling herself short on the picture she would tweet out, I just don't think it did what she thought it would do. I don't think it really generated the right kind of hype. There's ways to generate hype behind being good looking. And then there's ways that just kind of come off as trashy low key. And honestly, that's kind of what she did. So I don't know. I'm not thrilled about the way she promotes herself on Twitter. And like you said, for somebody who studied Muay Thai in Thailand, I gotta say, Jack, her Muay Thai ain't all that great.
No, but I will tell you, it tickles me. I feel like the Emperor from Star Wars when I can make Fred hate. So this segment right here makes me feel so good. I'm like, yes, let it flow through you. I
hate to say it. I hate to cut down the fighters. You know what I'm saying? I know it takes a lot to train and get in there and do their thing. So I hate to just sit back and talk shit, man. But sometimes it's like, yo, come on, man.
When you open yourself up on social media, you're allowing other people to make judgments. So it is what it is. It's the name of the game, and if you're gonna play, if you're gonna dish it out, you gotta be able to take it. And that's why I don't really talk shit.
Exactly. There you go. If you can't take it, don't put it out. So there it is.
You know what? And I've said this to so many people over social media. Michelle is truly a very sweet person. When you talk to her on the phone, whether she's on social media, whether she wins or loses the fight. And you know what? Honestly, I love that good sportsmanship. The whole hater thing is more I don't jump onto hype trains. But I really do love to see good sportsmanship from our athletes. Now, with that being said, you have a nice long camp for this to acclimate to the 115-pound division. What are we going to see out of you this time that perhaps we did not see from you in your last Invicta fight?
I think the most important thing for me is to just stay focused and actually be present. And if I can do that, I think I'll do very well. I've been working a lot on my wrestling with Coach Izzy out in Chicago, and I feel like just the type of mentality he's trying to instill within me is going to be awesome. And hopefully I can kind of bring that beast back that fought Kamada. That was lots of fun.
All right, I'm glad that you brought up wrestling, because the next thing that we're going to talk about is kind of the maybe the temperature of the strawweights in the last couple of fights. Now, we did have our inaugural champion of strawweight. It was Carla Esparza, as we know, a ground fighter. Then enters Johanna Jędrzejczyk, who now is going to be fighting Jessica Penne. Now, I don't know if people follow your career as closely as I do, but you have already fought Penne and beaten her. What do you think about the matchup there and just the atmosphere of the division that you are about to enter?
I think there are a lot of talented women in the 115 division, and half of them aren't signed to the UFC yet. So it'll be interesting to see how things fare within these next couple of years. I'm really excited to watch this fight between Johanna and Jessica. I feel like Jessica's made a lot of changes to her game since the last time we fought. From watching the Tough Show, and I'm not sure, some people have strategy as far as that goes, and I'm not sure if, she didn't push as hard as she needed to beat Carla on the show for a reason or not, but if she wasn't able to penetrate Carla's wrestling on the show, and Joanna has impeccable wrestling defense, I feel like Joanna will take the win, because Joanna's striking is just amazing. She uses her reach very well, and her wrestling defense is good. And I feel like that's where Jessica would win the fight if it did go to the ground. Jessica has really good jiu-jitsu, and I haven't seen Johanna's jiu-jitsu yet. So I give the edge to Johanna because of her boxing abilities and her ability to use her reach.
Yeah, she does have fantastic defensive wrestling. That was on display against Esparza. I wanted to ask you this. I know that you watch other fighters in your division and the female fighters. Was Johanna on your radar before she came into the UFC, or did you only become aware of her now?
I saw her first fight in the UFC, and my husband and I were watching it, and, my husband is a boxer, so he's like, she's good. You could just see like the crispness in her punches, and since that fight, we've kept a close eye on her because she is a very good fighter, and she has the fierceness that is required, inside and outside of the cage, dealing with all the drama that goes along with everything.
Okay, now let's just speculate that you are going to dispose of Her Majesty. Inside of the current strawweight, is there anybody that you have your eye on, any fight that excites you more than any other, something that you would like the fans to see in the future?
There are a lot of fight girls that I see that would be exciting fights. But I definitely would like to just stay focused on my next upcoming fight and just try to keep my eye on the prize there.
Okay, yeah, no problem. That's a great answer. I just had to throw that out there just to see if I could get you to do a little shit talking, but of course not. Okay, now we don't want to do any sort of downplay of this at all or any sort of negativity, but with the recent events with one of your teammates, obviously John Jones, we want to know how tight-knit of a family is it over there at Jackson's, and has there been any ripple effect inside of the gym? How is the overall atmosphere over there with this kind of crisis going on?
It's exactly what you said. We're a family, and we stick together through the good and the bad. And I think it's important to keep family issues in-house. And that's what we've all done. Try to just keep that in-house.
Yes, of course. Right. Like I said, we're not trying to disparage John Jones. We're actually, Kirby's a huge fan. I think he's a fantastic fighter. This is definitely a personal issue. We just wanted to make sure that the camp was, sound, because we do have other fighters that are coming out of there.
Oh, definitely. We're good. We're staying strong.
Good. That's perfect to hear. Well, on behalf of myself and Fred, we want to say welcome to the UFC. It's about time. And before I close the show, I would like you to tell the fans when your fight is, where it is, and how to contact you on social media.
Well, thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate it. If anybody wants to follow me, you can do so. I'm at Karate Hottie MMA. And I'll be fighting July 12th in Miami.
Okay. And Fred, how do they find you over on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Kirby_MMA and at Gym City Fighting. All
right, everybody. If you come across the show on Reddit or SureDog or someplace else, make sure that you stop by standandbangmma.com. You can find us on all formats on our own website. You can also follow the show at Stand and Bang Radio on Twitter and check us out on Facebook at Stand and Bang MMA Podcast. Michelle, thank you once again,